Welcome to Photo Finds. I am your host Kevin, and this week we are going to get started at IAAPA. Now this is the industry trade show for amusements and theme parks and carnivals and that sort of thing. Inflatable the jump devices, as you can see here as well. This is a giant foosball kind of inflatable blow-up. And it's a kind of trade show where you can go and sample what's new in the industry, such as this Soaring Eagle sit-down zip line thing, as well as just go see what's new and go meet buyers. The whole purpose of the thing is to connect the people building new stuff with the people buying new stuff. And so therefore there's a lot in the way of trying to sell their wares and advertise things that ought to come to a new amusement park or a carnival near you in the coming days. And here's an example of one. This is a different kind of climbing device with a kind of a cable here that holds you much like a climbing wall, so it's impossible to fall down all the way. It looks absolutely terrifying though, and I wouldn't get on that one myself. You'll see a lot of 3D movies, a lot of simulator rides at a place like this, different kinds of ropes courses, and it's actually open to the public, and if you're willing to pay, that is, to come for a single day, let's say. These are robotic fish. It's really quite amazing what they can come up with now. In fact, these fish have little lasers on their heads. You might say it was Austin Powers inspired. Angry Birds Playground. Several of these kinds of devices that are kind of the soft vinyl blow-up that spin you around. We saw another one where they slosh water in there as well. And so when you're spinning around, it's a little bit like you're constantly on a water slide. This mist screen is similar to what they use at Universal, although this one is subdivided in a way where you can walk through it, and it turns into kind of a water maze. Now, Antarctica, that's the new ride from SeaWorld, was displayed here, and you can see the motion base down here below. It's the vehicle as well as the motion base underneath it, and it is a trackless vehicle. There won't be a track. In that sense, it's going to be like Pooh's Honey Hunt at Tokyo Disneyland, and then the rest of it is a little bit like what one assumes is a vehicle that moves around through the cold environment, and we'll see more of that in the months to come. Now, speaking of SeaWorld, this is right behind it. This was the model for the theater that became Turtle Trek. So this is the company responsible for building that particular technology. An alternate version of a simulator. This is like Soarin', I guess you could say, except, and there's a model, of course, except the people are standing up and leaning forward into their stand-up, their restraints, and then taking a tour of the city this way. And so that looked pretty cool. This one particular one was for Vienna. We saw another simulator earlier having to do with Istanbul in Turkey. So the Fright Show and Creep Show people were here as well. You see a lot of special effects of that kind, right down to the arcade games and, in this case, the shooting galleries. This is called iHockey Pub from Primetime Amusements, and as you can see, it's a ice hockey kind of, or air hockey kind of table, but with flippers. So you're basically playing pinball hockey at each other. Now, air hockey was also a central feature over at the Midway booth, where they had this little beauty dedicated to Pac-Man in addition to the regular size puck, a large giant red puck. Every so often down these slot machine kinds of things would fall 20 or so other multicolored pucks, and so as you can see, the goal is quite large. The idea is that there's a lot of frenetic activity and perhaps multiple players playing. So if you get a chance, you should check out IAAPA in some future year if it's close to you. Now, we are here at SeaWorld having a look down at the Antarctica expansion. Haven't had a look here in quite some months, and so this was a bit of a shock for me to see that the old Penguin building was either torn down or made much larger. It's now 4 or 5 stories tall, it looks like. And the whole quad area has been replaced by a giant building. And in fact, the old shop, merchandise location, and fast food locations have also either undergone significant changes or been built again from the ground up. But the area looks to be very large indeed. So look at Atlantis as a comparison here. This is a ride on the size and the scale and scope of Atlantis that we're dealing with here in Antarctica. So there's a bit of a close-up view of some of the theming you can see going in now, the rock work going in. In fact, parts of this, you can see back on the side here, have been painted already to look like it's ice. Here's a couple of pieces of artwork from one of the construction fences. So this is wandering through the area. You can tell that there's a restaurant down here in the corner, people sitting at tables. And then here's another piece of artwork from another construction fence, making it look like not only do the trackless vehicles go through the penguin exhibit, but that there may be tour groups going through the exhibit at the same time as well. Now, SeaWorld has already started its annual Christmas decorations. This involves not only a tree up at the front of the park, a snowman in this case, also up at the front of the park, but the Sea of Trees decorations. This is a view from up above, and then what it looks like later on. The Sea of Trees is one of their signature events, this being the other one, O Wondrous Night, which is a retelling of the Nativity story done in the puppet fashion. You're familiar with this probably from the Finding Nemo musical over at Animal Kingdom. And it's done here where the primary singers are not necessarily the puppeteers, but these folks here who sing not only in gospel style, they have an entire ensemble to back them up, and they move their way through various Christmas stories and Christmas songs, very specifically Christian in nature, of course, given the nativity theme. And then they bring in live animals, including 3 camels by the end, releasing other animals as they go. It's really quite a different experience from what you're used to seeing as far as a Christmas show goes. And right next door to this is something new this year. It's kind of a meet and greet area for Wondrous Night, and they'll let you take a picture with an animal or two, and the animals will change all the time. These are only certain times of the evening, however. Other times of the evening you get here, it'll look like this, and there's no one there to take pictures. Now, there's more to see at SeaWorld. You've got the holiday ice skating show, of course, the Sea of Trees in the background, the fireworks that happen after that as well, not to mention the Clyde and Seymour show, the Sesame Street show, Shamu show becomes Miracles. There's really an awful lot going on at SeaWorld. It even snows here in their kind of Happy Harbor area, as well as all the decorations set up, just like they have throughout the park. They really get into the Christmas spirit in terms of decorating things up. Now, we're going to also have a glance at Legoland, where a week ago, a little bit more than a week ago, they opened Star Wars Miniland. And you can see the size and scale of the lands here. A couple of overview shots of the lands before we get into some of the close-ups. And as you can tell, they did the same sort of scale tricks that they've done elsewhere in Star Wars and in the Miniland area of Legoland, where they make use of size and color and composition to suggest details, but there aren't actually details most of the time. It's really just shapes if you get in nice and close. That having been said, they do a few things a little bit different here than they do elsewhere in Miniland. Now, normally in Miniland, you'll find little figures engaged in funny things, like a hold-up or a stick-up happening in one of the big city scenes, for instance. And they don't do any of that stuff here in the Star Wars area. They kind of played it seriously. There weren't any inside jokes going on. It's really just scenes from the movie and the, well, several movies, of course, and reenacted for you here in Lego format, just so that you can run from place to place. There's Han and Greedo sitting at the table, no word on who shot first, just so that you can have a sense running place to place of having lived in the Star Wars universe for a little while. Now we're going to come here to the death of an icon. This is the Dolly Parton's Dixie Stampede building, which has been bought by the nearby outlet mall. It is being demolished, and they will expand the outlet mall. I'm going to close out with a couple of words about Lone Star Steakhouse. I was invited there recently, not only to try out their new coconut shrimp and bloomin' onion thing, but to have a couple of their steaks. There's the jalapeno one and the Cajun one, and their salmon, of course. But because the management there thought that the word needed to get out that not all steakhouses were built equally. And I have to say, although I was their guest, I did agree that the steaks there were cut above what I had normally seen in many other steakhouses, and yet the prices were not any higher. In fact, they're mid-range steakhouse prices, and yet something of a premium product. So give that a look when you're next in the area. That was right next to the outlet malls, Lone Star Steakhouse along 535. This week we did not have time to get to the newest Disney ones, newest Disney updates, which is the Jack Sparrow walkthrough has opened in DHS for previews, and the Castle projections, which are part of both the Christmas show and the regular evening. We will get to those next time, and we thank you as always for your attention.